Hello! So I want to say this right away, just let you know before we start that we are going to talk about body image issues, other topics that are tangential to this topic. So if you're not ready to watch this right now, I'm just warning you before we get into this so you could, not watch this. So a few weeks ago, my favorite artist, Sunmi, just Sunmi, and I'm pretty sure that's how it's pronounced, came back with another song. She posted on her Instagram this story that showed the scales and how much she weighs now, which immediately kind of made me think about previous conversations that happened about body image in celebrity culture. And I kind of wanted to talk about this because I think that we are missing a really huge chunk of the conversation, which is what kind of influence do we have as an audience on the type of images that we consume when we engage with media. I think that oftentimes we just kind of skip over that whole topic. I think that it would make sense for us to talk about it. Before we start, today we're sponsored by Brevitē again. Last time I showed you what I pack when I go on hikes and I take pictures. Today, the gear in here, it's basically is the same. I'm not changing anything or anything like that. But this is packed for a photo shoot. This time I'm going to be taking care of the makeup on set as well. So my brushes, one of the makeup bags. I am going to pack some stick-on nails. Yeah, I'm also a nail tech. Not really, but you know what I mean. Pocket right here. I still have Tylenol in there because obviously. And also I'm gonna put my little box with jewelry in the front pocket as well, even though it's a little big, it's okay, it fits. So obviously I'm putting my documents in this, not only documents, but like credit cards and stuff like that, in this pocket right here. And that's basically what I do for a little photo shoot where I'm taking care of not only taking pictures but also doing the makeup. So look how cute. Thank you Brevitē for sponsoring this video. So I kind of wanted to talk about this because I follow her career quite closely. By her, I mean Sunmi. If you haven't checked out her music or her music videos, stages, all of that kind of stuff, please do. She's really great. Let me give you a rundown really quickly. So first of all, she debuted with a girl group at first. She was really young when she debuted. She's always been very thin. A lot of people think that she has a really hard time gaining weight and all of that kind of stuff because that's what she said before. But now she gained a bit of weight a couple of years ago when the fans kind of asked her to because they were concerned about her health. And she also stated herself that she realized that her weight is extremely low. She cannot be performing her world tour that she wanted to perform, have enough energy and stuff like that. So clearly it wasn't her natural state. It was a little bit of an undernourishment, I guess. Regardless of what it was, she gained a bit of weight. She was still underweight for her height. So let me read you the tweet that I wrote when I saw the scales because I think that it was a little bit more succinct than what I can do right now. Sunmi posted her weight on Instagram, and honestly, it is largely our fault as an audience that so many celebrities are constantly starving themselves to fit a beauty standard. Just look at how the levels of obsession and fame/success changed for her in the past few years, where she actually decided to not be underweight to be able to perform for her world tour. Just watch her interviews if you don't know. I am 100% sure everyone is suddenly going to be coincidentally obsessed with her again, just like it happened with Sunmi. By the way, we're going to talk about her as well. Basically, many people that the audience consists of are hypocrites, and we should be trying harder to show support to great artists at different sizes to show that it is possible to be successful without starving, because consumers do affect the image that is more popular and that becomes fashionable. I decided to make a video on this because I think that it needs to a little bit of expanding, and I want more people to see this, and I want more people to remember to question whether they're actually following through on their opinions in terms of these things. If you think that she was healthy at that point, she has said before that that wasn't really the case because she did pass out on stage after performing. So it's not like this would be correct to think that she actually has a really hard time gaining weight, blah blah blah. Now she's openly talks about the fact that after gaining that weight, she is on a diet to lose it. She obviously lost a lot of weight for this comeback, but she talked about losing it a while ago on one of the talk shows. She literally said that she's losing her weight because her fans asked her to. Again,
빼래.
그런 사람들도 있어?
뺀 게 이쁘대. 일부 팬들이 나의 마른 모습을 되게 좋아해서 나를 좋아하는 사람들이
It's just such a weird thing going on. But what I want you to pay attention to here is not that this is a thing, because it happens really often. It's discussed often. I'm not trying to be a broken record here. But what I'm trying to talk about here is that she has clearly noticed how much of a difference her weight made on her career. As an audience, we have to be a little bit more self-aware in terms of things that we ask from artists and things that we actually support with tangible things, you know? So for example, with actually paying attention to her comebacks, and I know that some of you are going to say that, oh, her songs were not the same quality in that period, specifically that period where she weighed just a little bit more than usual. It was just coincidental that her songs weren't hitting as hard for you. So I think that it would be interesting to pay attention to her progression in terms of career and look at whether the quality was actually different, because there was multiple comebacks that she had while having a different weight. And I think that we should be honest with ourselves and talk about grassroots promotion, right? So promotion that happens organically with the fans just talking about her, or not even just fans, but people in general, posting her on Twitter and stuff like that. And again, I noticed that there was no post about her for a year or two on those fashion accounts on Twitter or Pinterest and stuff like that. And all of a sudden, as soon as she lost all of her weight back to that really, really low weight, everyone started to post her again. Clearly, at least some of us are either lying about our opinions, or not following through on our opinions, or not pay attention to how we act after we request things from people who we look up to. Regardless of what it is, regardless of what we want to say to ourselves, that we are just affected by the media and we think of ourselves one way or another and we have these body image issues because of the media, we actually affect media as well. Whatever sells more is going to be popular. Let's just think about who was leading the global body image industry in the past few years before they started to change their appearance again. The Kardashians and their slim, thick kind of look that they were going for, right? Now it's swinging back to this super thin bullshit. And of course, we have this situation where the Kardashians are taking out their implants because it wasn't their natural body. So now they're going back to what they looked like before surgeries, or at least they're trying to. And it's all because things are not as popular as it used to be, or this look is not as popular as it used to be. And it's not because the Kardashians themselves decided so. I'm gonna tell you right away that it's because they just noticed that in the market right now, there's a swing back to the other side of the spectrum. Clearly see that by the latest TikToks and who becomes big on TikTok right now. That's very eerily similar to what was popular in 2012-ish. I want to encourage you to really think about what is actually the norm. I think that you have to understand that with the celebrities, oftentimes they say that they are, for example, just naturally thin at very low weight, which is possible, but it's really rare. And for example, with Taylor Swift, she said herself that that was not the case, and that she would starve herself from time to time to get this ideal look.
Starve a little bit, just stop eating. That wasn't how my body was supposed to be. I just didn't really understand that at the time. And I did exercise a lot, but I wasn't eating.
She definitely had to sacrifice a lot of her mental stability to be as thin as Victoria's Secret models were, which they also have to do a bunch of shit to fit into that mold. But regardless of that, it's not what it seems, right? So we keep on constantly running into these issues, and you can see that, again, Taylor Swift was featured on a lot of those fashion, aesthetics focused Twitter accounts, Pinterest, whatever it is, Tumblr if you go really far back, right? All of those websites, all of those blogs and pages were featuring her a lot more because they were, I guess back then they were obsessed with her style or whatever. But once again, the people we're talking about, they're still the same people, they still have the same fashion sense. There's a difference in terms of how obsessed people are with images of them and how much they promote them naturally, which is very important because these people that we're talking about, they are celebrities, their brand, their public image is what feeds them, and about 100 people who work for them. We forget that regardless of what we say to them, they do still feel the responsibility of looking a certain way just because they see the difference, tangible difference in terms of the money made, in terms of the natural promotion that happens on the internet and other things like that. Basically, my point here is that we have to be supporting artists for what they do rather than what they look like a little bit more, and stick by them if their product is still good, even if they don't look a certain way or don't look the same and stuff like that, because we clearly need to follow through on what we're preaching a little bit here, because the conversation of body positivity is always going on, everyone is always preaching about it, but do we actually give those celebrities room to be human, to be biological beings that are not static? If you think that it's just a coincidence, both with Taylor Swift having a lot of people posting her images and Sonmi. Let's talk about Sonmi, another artist in Korea. That's very common in Korea, by the way, but I think that it's common everywhere. It's not just a Korean issue, as some people want to, pretend. It really isn't. We're all obsessed with images, and we definitely support the whole theory that Guy Debord had in his Society of the Spectacle book. We're gonna talk about it probably on my podcast. With her, it was the same exact issue. She was a normal weight, even a bit on the lower side again, got a lot of backlash for it. Now she is extremely thin, and she keeps on saying that she is healthy. Not saying that she isn't or she is. It's a little bit of a dicey conversation. But regardless, she is an artist that clearly got a lot more people obsessing over her. Mostly young girls who do have issues with their body image, who start obsessing over her and posting her more, and she basically gets more exposure off of that, We definitely tangibly influence who becomes more popular and what you have to be able to compete. We're not giving space for people to be anything but, because regardless of us saying that this is not something that you should be doing, or that you have freedom to not look this way and still be successful, we clearly aren't following through with what we're saying as an audience. This is a good point to bring up conflicting images, right? When we talk about curvy bodies and thin bodies and how we keep on going through this cycle of going back and forth, obviously it is a capitalist kind of bullshit, because of course we're going to be making one body really desirable just so everybody starts following the trend and pay a lot of money to fit into that trend, and then we switch back to the same image that requires specific products to kind of keep on making profit off of people. But first of all, the more the spectator contemplates, the less he lives, the more he accepts recognizing himself in the dominant images of need, the less he understands his own existence and desire. Oftentimes pay too much attention to the people who are in our popular media. We dissect their looks and we imagine ourselves to have to be this type of person in order to even imagine ourselves living in this society. It's something that I also talked about at length in my other video about plastic surgery. I'm gonna link it. We are always fed conflicting images, conflicting desires, because they kind of give us a sense of choice, they give us a sense of control, regardless of the fact that we are constantly being influenced by the media. It's kind of a capitalist way of making people obsessed with products and images, while at the same time giving people the feeling of choice, the feeling of abundance, because you have so many things to choose from, and at the same time we still end up choosing the same thing. A lot of people project themselves onto the celebrities, one of them being Lizzo, for example. There was this whole issue where Lizzo was forced to address why she was doing a smoothie cleanse after she was, on a vacation and whatever, and she wasn't feeling well afterwards, so she wanted to go on a smoothie cleanse thing, and a lot of people got mad at her because they project themselves onto her and they think that she owes them to stay in the same looking body. So everyone was like, oh, you're exercising? Oh, you're eating well? How dare you? Because you need to be staying in this specific body. First of all, again, an assumption, a crazy assumption, because the girl jumps around with a flute on the stage. I'm pretty sure she's not like unhealthy. Clearly genetics are at play here. Like, this is a stupid conversation. But regardless of that, she definitely got a lot of backlash for just doing something that people perceived as putting in work into losing weight and looking different, and everyone was like, oh, she's abandoning us, you know? Like, people who felt like she was representing them in the media. As I've said before, we get obsessed with images and we live through those images instead of through our own experiences. So they projected themselves onto Lizzo and they expected her to stay in the same body, regardless of what she decides to do, get bigger or smaller. It's none of our business, really, right? Same thing happened with Adele. She actually talked about it in her Oprah interview, where she addressed the fact that people were upset with her losing weight. They thought that it was for vanity purposes, but even if it was for vanity purposes, you know, it's her business. It's weird to get mad at a person for wanting to do something with their body, I guess. At the same time, she is clearly the type of person who has a lot of people paying attention to her music, right? But now that she lost the weight, there was like a whole thing of people not paying attention to her music as much as talking about her losing weight.
And I remember the first time I dropped a lot of weight, people were really upset. They felt like I'd abandoned them or something.
Yeah, and I was body positive then and I'm body positive now. It's not my job to validate how people feel about their bodies.
Have another one, which is Rebel Wilson. With Rebel Wilson, it was genuinely told to her face when she decided that she wanted to lose weight. Not even lose weight, she wanted to stop reacting to emotional distress by eating it away, because she realized she has like unhealthy patterns. So she wanted to get rid of those patterns regardless of how it would affect her body in terms of size, right? She actually said that when she was in LA talking to her team about it, they told her to her face that might be a bad idea for her, actually, because she clearly makes a lot of money being the funny fat girl.
When I said, okay, I'm going to do this year of health, I'm going to physically transform and change my life. And they were like, why? Because I was earning millions of dollars being funny fat girl and being that person.
And if you are not one, like, which is super thin, or the other where you are over a certain amount of weight where you become the fat funny person, you don't fit into anything in popular culture, which is so weird. Like, we really need to stick to our word when we say that we want people to be happy and whatever. We really do need to pay attention to their work. Like, if they're acting, pay attention to their acting instead of their body. We are forcing these people to look a certain way because this is their job. Their job is to be an actor, for example, or to be a singer, or to be an influencer or something. At some size, you start to get, even I get comments about my appearance, even though I'm a very small channel. So we have to kind of stick to our word, because otherwise we're just forcing them to look a certain way and then we get mad at them for it. Because regardless of you thinking that maybe they should be able to withstand that kind of pressure, I think that it is a little bit unfair to do or unfair to think just because this is their way of making a living. We definitely expect them to look a certain way to get any type of attention, and it goes against all the progress that we've made recently in terms of body image. Basically, what I'm saying is, it's not just the media's fault in terms of how we feel about our bodies. It's just not the fault of the people who become popular, because we put them there and we tell them by our actions, not with our words, because our words are always saying the opposite, by the amount of support and success that they garner, that they need to look the way that we expect them to, regardless of how it affects them as people, as, you know, biological human beings. I just think it's strange that we always absolve ourselves of all responsibility. Oftentimes, this conversation is always revolving around how evil these people are for doing these things, for talking about dieting or about surgeries or whatever. Some people say that they are grateful for that because there's at least transparency, but in any case, there's a lot of animosity going on, and I think that we all have responsibility to withstand this stupid standards that we place upon everybody in society, ourselves included. We also have to really pay attention to how we engage with the media. Did you actually stop liking someone's music? Just questioning, wait, did I actually stop liking the way that they act or the way that they sing? Do I think that their concepts for their albums are actually weak? Or did I just stop listening to them because I am not obsessing over their body and I don't see them as often on all of my social media because other people who I follow, people who are into high fashion or whatever on Twitter and Pinterest and stuff like that, they stopped posting them, right? Hypocrisy? Not in this house. Not under this roof, okay? In any case, this is what I wanted to talk about today. I hopefully I'm not going to be gone for too long, but I'm going to be taking a little bit of a break because of a dental surgery that I'm going to have. I just hope that it's going to heal really quickly and I'll be able to, film again. I'm probably going to be a little bit swollen, so I'm going to look like a bit of a chipmunk, which is fine because I always look a little bit like a chipmunk and kind of would be, on brand for me. Let me know what you think. Let me know if you have any questions about anything that you would want me to expand on in the podcast. Bye!